Hello and welcome to the Rhode Island Wave Spotlight Series brought to you from the beautiful Coesit Inn in West Warwick, Rhode Island. Tonight we have a special guest. He's the president of the Italian American Hall of Fame, and I'm sure most Rhode Islanders are going to remember him, many of his accomplishments, and his popularity. Mr. Joe Rocco, welcome.
Thank you, Don. That's very nice of you. I don't know if most Rhode Islanders are going to remember. I have a little less hair now, and it's a little more gray.
Well, we all have a little less hair.
Yeah, well, see all that stress from the television news days. That's
Absolutely.
Mostly how I lost most of my hair.
I lost mine from being married.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my wife's out there.
Your wife's here. You're going to be driving home alone.
I know I am.
You better call a cab.
One of the things I'd like to do that we don't normally do is, first of all, Dean, I think we need about a 2-hour interview to cover everything. Mr. Rocco is president of RocJo Productions, television and video production company. He's a 3-time New England Emmy Award nominee, 2-time New England Emmy Award winner for his work. His clients included Foxwoods, did award banquets and organizations in Rhode Island and Massachusetts for the Italian American Hall of Fame. Celebrities he had appearing: Dan Marino, Mario Andretti, Joe Paterno, Teddy Bruschi, Terry Francona, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and a long list of others. And the only way I could do this is to read it. He was also the executive producer and co-master of ceremonies for events, as well as the Rhode Island chapter of National Italian American Sports Hall of Fame annual awards dinner honoring Rick Pitino and Dominic DiMaggio. His credibility with sports led him to one-on-one interviews with Muhammad Ali, Evander Holyfield, Arnold Palmer, Dan Marino, Bobby Orr, Mario Andretti, and a list of others, which will take 2 hours to read. His work as president and vice president of the Rhode Island Italian American Hall of Fame has helped raise more than $250,000 in scholarships awarded to outstanding local scholar athletes. He has been a co-chairman, Toastmaster for awards dinners honoring Mario Andretti, Tommy Lasorda, Joe Montana, and it goes on and on and on, so I'm going to have to stop because we only have a half hour.
No wonder I'm so tired. When I hear that, I haven't read that in a while.
Yeah, you don't realize that's what you had accomplished.
A lot of fun, though. A lot of great memories.
A lot of great memories.
Yes, and more to come.
I'm glad. I'll never forget the organized event you had for Leon Panetta.
The veterans event.
That was mind-blowing.
Yeah, thank you. That's Don's talking about an event we did 5 years ago. It was the 30th anniversary of our Rhode Island Italian American Hall of Fame. We honored 8 great Italian American veterans, including a couple of World War II guys, Korean War vets, Vietnam vets, which was terrific. Had Allison Bologna and Gene Valicente hosting that affair. Right. And then we had a very special guest that we gave a Lifetime Achievement Award to, the former Secretary of Defense, White House Chief of Staff, head of the CIA, et cetera, Leon Panetta, who, I don't care, Democrat, Republican, Independent, class act, great speech that day, if you remember.
Yes, I do.
He had no notes. He had no papers. Talked about family and being Italian, and he's one of my favorite people.
I agree. And one of the things I said to him afterwards, I was so impressed with him. I said, "You got to answer one question for me." So what is it? Why didn't you run for president?
Yeah. And what did he say?
Laughed.
Oh, he laughed.
He just laughed.
Yeah.
Which I don't blame him.
Well, you know, if you look at his history, and we did a video on him, and I really learned a lot about him. The timing was never right for him. Right. In a nutshell, we could talk about that for 10 minutes, but the timing was just never right. And any smart politician, I think, the smart ones, evaluate the timing of where they're at in life, can they win, who they're going to have to run against, and the timing was just never right. But it would have been very interesting to see him run and be president. He was a very bright guy, obviously. But that was a fun event, a very memorable event. Probably the hardest I've ever worked on an event of all those.
Oh, I believe it.
because we wanted to do justice to those terrific veterans, those Italian American Hall of Fame veterans. And we wanted to bring back people we've honored to help make those presentations. People like Al Varecchia, Enrico Petrocelli, and Vinny Paz was there. And Joe Andruzzi came, and we haven't even honored Joe. That could happen, stay tuned. And they came and helped present the awards to the veterans. What was a shame, we did it on a Sunday afternoon. You always want to try to do these events on a Saturday night for the biggest crowd possible. But what was a shame is the turnout wasn't as good as it could have or should have been. The sponsorship was great, so we raised a considerable amount more money, which has helped us continue to give more scholarships.
Yep.
And we're over, I give you a slightly dated bio there, we're over, well over 300,000 now that the Italian American Hall of Fame has given to terrific kids, extraordinary students from all ethnic backgrounds, by the way. And we'll be awarding a batch more of scholarships in November to another group of people that are being selected as we speak.
That's wonderful.
So yeah, it's a good thing. We have a lot of fun doing it. And when you look at those scholarship applications from these very bright, extraordinary students, kind of gives you a renewed faith in the youth of America.
Yes.
If you need a renewed faith,
yes.
which I often do.
I know I do too.
Okay, well, yes. But when you read, you see what some of these Rhode Island kids want to do, their ambitions, what they've done in the classroom, in the arts, in sports, in the community.
It's amazing.
There's really some good, ambitious, young, bright kids out there.
My wife and I say it all the time, being part of the Sons of Italy, Sons and Daughters of Italy, we give out scholarships every year.
Right, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
When I see some of these kids, what they accomplish, it just blows my mind.
Yeah,
it blows my mind.
It's a good thing, and we've been around for 35 years, as you know, Don, and you're a member. We started as a chapter of the National Italian American Sports Hall of Fame in Chicago.
Okay.
And we were with them for a number of years. And the short version is we broke off to become the Rhode Island Italian American Hall of Fame to keep all the money here in Rhode Island. Instead of sending some of it to Chicago, even though at the time it made sense.
Yep.
And they helped launch us and helped us get some people to come here. They were instrumental in our first dinner. We had 900 people at the Venus de Milo to honor Ralph Zanelli and Dan Marino. That would not have happened without Chicago. And then the second year followed it up with Tommy Lasorda, another 900 people on a Thursday night at the Venus de Milo.
Yeah.
And Lasorda didn't start speaking till about 11:15 because the event ran long. His plane was late. And I watched the back door and not one person left. 900 people on a Thursday night. He spoke from 11:15 to 11:30. Not one person left.
Yeah.
That's pretty rare. Only a guy like Leon Panetta or Gino Oriemo or Rick Pitino, in my experiences, can keep an audience engaged.
Yes.
That late at night on a weeknight, right? Try doing that now. The room would empty.
Yeah, we struggle at times with trying to organize events. And
it's a challenge.
It's tough today.
No doubt. Yeah, no doubt.
Maybe what we could do, I'd like to do, and people love hearing about this, is go backwards. Go back to your, say, younger days when you were, before you were even a teenager or in your early teen years. Where did you grow up? What type of family life did you have? And how was it growing up to be an Italian American?
Well, I was very fortunate. I was an only child. My parents had me late. Second marriage for my dad, who was 49 at the time. My mom was 39. I grew up in a terrific town north of Boston called Linfield, kind of like an East Greenwich of Rhode Island. Great town, good school system, low to no crime. But what was wonderful was we were 15 minutes, 20 minutes away from Fenway Park and the Boston Garden.
Yep.
And my dad was a big sports fan. And as soon as I became of age, he started taking me to these sporting events. So, for example, in 1967, I was 8 years old. My dad started taking me to Fenway Park. Or Fenway Park, as I used to say, before I took some speech courses at Emerson College. And so in 1967, when baseball changed in Boston, the Impossible Dream Team, right? Lomborg and Yaz and those guys, I saw 25 games that year. My dad was good friends with the ticket manager. So we had the backline number, and anytime we wanted to go, he would call him. And on a Sunday morning, if the weather was good, my father said, "You want to go to the ball game?" Well, I never said no, right? So his name was Arthur Moscato. Call Arthur. Call Arthur, bang. Never sat more than 10 rows from the field, so I was really spoiled.
Oh yeah.
And the tickets, I think, were like $6 back then, you know. And it was a great time to become a sports fan because look what the Red Sox did that year, right?
Exactly.
And then soon after that, going to the Garden to see the Celtics and the Bruins and watching Bill Russell and Bobby Orr. You knew they were great, but now when you look back at it, you say, "Wow,
Wow, they were really great."
We saw legends."
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
and growing up Italian American, very good, close on both sides of the family, 100% Italian. So that was terrific. You know, family gatherings. It's a shame, as you know, how disjointed many families are today. So you don't get the Sunday dinner with all the relatives and everybody's all over the place. Everybody's busy. I don't know what everybody's doing all the time, but everybody's busy. So I had a terrific upbringing and great parents. And you know, I wonder if I didn't go to those sporting events or if we couldn't have afforded it because my dad had made a decent living and we were comfortable, not wealthy. Maybe I would have done something else. I don't know. I think I would have still been a big sports fan, but that helped me to think about what I wanted to do. And when I'd go to those games and I'd see the media, the press get to sit on the floor at Celtics games or have the best seats in the house at Fenway Park right above the screen in the press box and go, and I'd say,
that's what I want to
they
do.
go to games for free,
Yeah.
and they get paid for it.
Yeah.
So now, when I get a little older, maybe I could look into that.
Yep.
That could work.
Yep. Absolutely.
And I was very fortunate enough to be able to do that for a number of years.
That's fantastic.
So,
what about after that? You went to college. Obviously, you just mentioned you went
Emerson
to college.
College in Boston. Yes.
What did you have in your mind? Did you have your mind made up at that point? That's what you wanted to do.
Well, that's a good question. I thought I wanted to get into broadcasting, but I wasn't sure with news or sports. So I did a little of both in my freshman and sophomore years at the school radio station.
Yep.
And I came to the conclusion very quickly that most of the news, as it is today, unfortunately, is bad news. And it can be a little depressing.
Yeah.
And I said, well, do I really want to pursue a career there where I'm going to be covering murders and fires and arrests? And I mean, there's some good news stories out there, but let's face it, right? 3/4 of the news is bad news.
It is.
And I was such a big sports fan. Now, people said you have a much better chance of getting that difficult, elusive radio or television job if you go into news because any station has many more people in the news department than the sports department. As it is, it's very difficult to get an on-air job. I never really worried about the odds, and I just had in my mind that I could do it. Never had, still don't think I had an abundance of talent. Never was going to be on the cover of GQ. Never had the Kurt Gowdy voice, but I had a certain amount of talent but drive and ambition. And for anybody who's watching this and doesn't think they can do something, I'll tell you that I'm the living proof with, you know, a medium, maybe slightly above average talent that I overcame. Well, in Providence at Channel 10, they told me they got 150 tapes for my job. And the job before that in Fresno, California, they got 110 or 100 and something jobs. And I got that job. Again, somebody spotted something in me, luckily, and they gave me an opportunity. So again, I wasn't going to bowl anybody over with great looks or a great voice. And I was not a former athlete, which always helps, especially these days. Was not a minority, which also helps, you know, just an average white guy from the Boston area. So I was able to do it for 17 years and covered a lot of memorable events and a little more work than meets the eye. Not quite as glamorous as you might think, but a good way to make a living. And I still have a great deal of respect for all the people like my former colleague, Frank Carpano, who's still there and getting it done and doing a good job.
I think you had it in your heart and soul that that's what you wanted to do, and that's what took you there.
Drive and ambition.
Drive and ambition, a goal, a vision on where you want to be. That's
right.
all important.
And I had good teachers and good advice, and you know I am teacher, so I listened. I was willing to go anywhere to pay your dues. Which when young people ask me for advice still today, I said, well, number one, if you're lucky to get an on-air job, you have to be willing to go anywhere. You're not going to start in Providence or Hartford, and certainly not Boston.
Yep.
So I graduated Emerson in this spring of '81, and 2 months later, I sent a tape to Montana, the Montana State Network. I was ready to go anywhere to get on the air.
Yeah.
And it was a news and sports job. And then I had an opportunity, in addition for a position that was part-time, going to be full-time, sports, in Springfield, Mass, 90 minutes down the Mass Pike. And on the same day, I don't know how this happened, on the same day I got both job offers. I got a call the same day for Montana and Springfield. God. Montana was full-time, but news and a little bit of sports. Springfield was part-time, just weekends and 1 day a week, all sports. But they said if it works out well, it's going to become full-time. Well, I took the Springfield job, and but I was very lucky, and you know, I just produced as sharp a tape as I could to try to show news directors that I knew how to write and ask questions and report sports. And luckily, someone noticed.
That's great. That's fantastic. One of the questions I had for you, you've interviewed so many athletes that were famous. One of my favorites, Muhammad Ali. What was he like to interview?
So I'm at Emerson College, I think in my senior year, and I'm in the one of the buildings, the student union, and I see a flyer on the wall that Ali's coming to a Muslim school in Dorchester on such and such a date. And again, this goes back to drive, determination, set a goal, right?
Yep.
We had a college TV station. We only broadcast within the buildings. Nobody saw it really. So I said, you know what? I'm going to try to get a sit-down interview with him. So I called a gentleman who was running the weekend at this Muslim school that he was visiting. He was coming on a Friday night. They did a press conference for all the media. The next day he was coming and watching a show that the kids at the school were doing in this auditorium. And I made a deal, and I asked him, do you have anybody there to chronicle the weekend so that you have a video of this, what could be and will be a historic weekend? And he said, no. I said, well, I'll tell you what. My buddy at Emerson College will come and shoot everything he does and goes on that weekend and give you the tape if you get me 10 minutes and a sit-down with Ali.
Wow.
We made a deal. I made him an offer he couldn't refuse.
Yeah, he couldn't refuse that.
And in that day, it was just me and one other person from the Boston and surrounding media that got the sit-down
with Ali,
one-on-one. And we put it on, if you go to my company website, there's a handful of things I put up there, bloopers and some memorable things. And it's RocJo.com, ROCJO. Okay. And if you scroll all the way down, or you go to the YouTube channel for RocJo, RocJo.com, RocJo.com, that interview is on there, the whole interview.
Wow.
And as my wife said, I had, of course it was 1981, with the hair and stuff, I looked like one of the monkeys, she said. That's and Ali was, he was great. And at the very end of the interview, because he didn't even know what station or really didn't care, and he was still fairly sharp. It was after the Larry Holmes fight, which was his second to last fight. But he was slurring a little bit, but still fairly sharp. And at the end of the interview, he looks at me and he goes, "Are you the local Howard Cosell?" And then I said, "Of course I am, Muhammad. Muhammad Ali, everybody." He goes, "He gets paid being crazy. What's your reason?" And it's all on there, and he was great. And then I did the rope-a-dope with him and stuff. It's one of the few things among the 1,000 tapes I have that I recently got digitized, and we put it on the website. I don't know who's going to want to watch it in 30 or 40 years, but it's up there for laughs and giggles.
I'll probably go home and watch it.
RocJo.com, RocJo. Scroll to the bottom, Channel 10 bloopers and memorable moments. That was a thrill. It was a thrill to meet him.
He became a favorite. Initially, I wasn't too keen on him, but then the more I watched and listened to him, the more I started to realize, a lot of this stuff he's putting on like a show all the time.
Always.
He's a comedian when he wants to be, and all this other stuff, and even his beliefs,
right?
His religious beliefs. So I started to change, And all of a sudden, I was a big Ali fan.
And you know what's a shame, and I've thought of this many times watching and covering boxing for a long time. Too bad he got sick, because if he didn't, think of what a terrific color commentator he could have been.
Exactly.
Right? Sugar Ray Leonard was pretty good. George was okay. Roy Jones wasn't very good. But among the former fighters who did HBO and Showtime, think of how entertaining and colorful Ali would have been. And everybody would have wanted him. He would have been on every big fight.
I used to like it when he interviewed with Howard Cosell. He'd start getting near Howard Cosell, and then he'd lift up his toupee. That was hysterical. I thought that was really funny.
So about 8 or 9 months before Cosell passed away, I got a one-on-one with Howard. He was appearing at at a banquet in like New London or Bridgeport, Connecticut, and it was just Howard and I in a hotel room with a camera guy. I don't usually room with Howard Cosell.
Yeah.
And so my cameraman's finishing the setup, and I making some small talk with Howard, a little cranky, because he could be, as I'm sure you've heard and read, right?
Yep.
He hadn't had a drink yet that night, so he was a little testy. And so I said, have you talked to, now this was like early 90s. So I said, have you talked to Ali lately? And he said, you must know, the man suffers from pugilistic dementia and can't possibly carry on a conversation. I said, I'll just ask. So he kind of reamed me out a little bit. We should have been rolling on that.
They were close. They became close over the
Great
years.
television, wasn't it? It was terrific television.
It was.
Yeah.
It's almost like Ali made Cosell.
Yes, absolutely.
Unbelievable.
Absolutely.
Let's get a little more into the Italian American Hall of Fame. If people are interested in learning more about it, where do they look? If they're interested in joining,
right,
where do they look to join?
So I would highly recommend, whether you want to join or not, whether you're Italian or not, go to our website. There is a video there called Champions for All Seasons, which you have seen. We play it before every event, kind of like our national anthem.
Right.
And what it is, it's a compilation of all our major events from the past 35 years. And it's little clips here and there, kids we've given scholarships to who are now doing great in the community and in the workforce. It's clips from many of the banquets we've discussed.
Yeah.
It's Mike Tranghisi, it's Teddy Bruschi, it's Phil Esposito, it's Chris Terreri, it's Montana, Marino, it's those guys. Mario, certainly. Some emotional moments. We honored John Calipari at the Westin in Providence just about 4 days after his grandmother passed away. He broke down at the podium. It's Angelo Dundee talking why you got to go to Italy. Started crying at Quidnesset Country Club in East Greenwich. Everybody was there to see him talk about his days with Ali and Sugar Ray Leonard. He wanted to talk mostly about his Italian heritage and going to Italy, and he was terrific. Yeah. You know, we had probably 400 people in the room. You could have heard a pin drop. So that video, Champions for All Seasons, it's on our homepage, and it's at RIIAHF.org, which is Rhode Island Italian American Hall Fame. RIIAHF.org. Watch that video, and then you'll know whether or not you want to be a member or get involved. That's all I'll say. It's watch the video.
That's excellent. That's excellent. I really don't have too much more here. If I get into this stuff, we'll get carried away. We'll be here another hour. But I have to say, it's very impressive, and you've led a terrific life. I'm glad you've done things that you like to do and you wanted to do. You grew up in a great family, Italian-American family, which I did, and to me, family is everything, and I've taught that to my son, who's 37.
And I hope he's listening. Is he listening?
Does. Good. He does. He's very traditional.
Good. That's good to hear.
The holidays have to be the same every year.
Beautiful.
And the way I learned he was very traditional, they have the holidays at our house. My wife, Deborah, and I have them over, and her family. I said to him one day, I said, Jeff, I got an idea. He says, what is it? I said, I usually sit at the head of the table there. How about this year? I'll sit over here, you sit over there, and he's looking at me. All of a sudden he goes, no. How about we don't change anything, because that's how it has to be every year. I went, oh, okay.
Good for him.
So he's very traditional, which I'm very happy about.
Oh, that's great.
He cares about holidays and family, and things of that nature. It makes me proud.
Yeah. All you should be, and it's very important because we're losing a lot of that.
Absolutely.
And when you lose a lot of that, the results sometimes aren't good.
Absolutely.
It's, you know, right, as we both know, is the short version.
It is.
Right. So keeping those traditions alive. We have many more exciting things planned for the Hall of Fame. We've done theater events, we've done dinners. We did this event in July called Godfather 50 Years. It was a look back at the 50th anniversary of the Godfather film. And we had Gianni Russo at the event. Gianni played Carlo, and he's quite a character. And we sold out Alpine Country Club 2 weeks in advance. It was a great event. We raised more money for the Hall of Fame, which is going to allow us to give away even more scholarships in November. And here's the most important thing. A fun time was had by all.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. It's great to be able to do these things and accomplish these things. And even if I'm making a video for a client, a commercial, a promotional video, I want to have fun because I've been blessed to always have fun in everything I've done.
Exactly.
In covering a lot of those events and with the World Series and Super Bowls and heavyweight championship fights, I'd do it all over again. I was fortunate to be there, and it's a lot of work and stress when the station's paying a lot of money for you to be at an event and be live, and you're the lead story because everybody's talking about the Patriots or URI or PC, whatever the big story is.
Yep.
A lot of stress. Again, that's why there's not much hair left, but a lot of fun too.
That's good.
You got to love what you do, right?
You have to. Yeah.
And that's the other bit of advice for people searching or young people that might be watching.
That's why I love retirement.
Very good.
Well, this has been a great interview. I really appreciate the time you took to come down here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Hey, my pleasure. But also, if there's anything else, any other comments you'd like to make before we wrap this up? Did we cover enough?
All right. Well, two final plugs. Again, if you need a video produced on your company or your family or video tribute on somebody to preserve a legacy, done about 1,000 of those. It's a great way to preserve, or the gift for someone who has everything.
Right.
A little biography video on someone. Right. If you really want to do it right, you rent a theater and you bring your wife or girlfriend or husband or daughter or whatever, bring them to a theater. Don't tell them what it is, and all of a sudden there's a movie about them. We've done that before. It's RocJo.com, ROCJO. And for the Italian American Hall of Fame, we'd love to have more members, especially people who want to get involved a little bit.
Absolutely.
Not a lot. Nobody's got to do a lot. Just get a little bit and have some fun and meet some terrific people and network. And yeah, you'll meet some famous people along the way, and that's nice and it's fun. That's RIIAHF.org, Rhode Island Italian American Hall of Fame. And I couldn't be more proud to be president. We have a great board of directors and officers and members like you, Don. We need a few more guys like you, and we'll keep on doing all the good things that we've been doing.
Excellent. Well, Joe, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Glad to be here.